Today's show is brought to you by homebrewsupply.com. Homebrew Supply is your one-stop shop for brew day ingredients, recipes, equipment, and more. Take advantage of everyday low pricing and everyday flat rate shipping only at homebrewsupply.com. Go to homebrewsupply.com right now and use our promo code HHH to get 5% off your order. homebrewsupply.com. Let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Growing your own hops, what is food grade gas, fast fermentation activity, and a question about kombucha. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 202. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer at kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Good. Excellent.
Wonderful. I need to work on, I've gotten a few feedback emails. They're good, but somebody wrote in, he goes, you inflect on the same words every time, like I am your host, Joshua, like it's a song. So next week I'm gonna try like I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and joining me is my co-host. I gotta change it up. I think it's too robotic. I'm getting too predictable, guys. I need to change something up about it. I don't know. Something I was noticing, I think it'll be caught on camera. I was looking at my eyebrows. Holy crap, they're bushy. Like, I put on some COVID weight, but good Lord, these eyebrows, like, I have COVID eyebrows, it turns out. Like, they're all in my eye. I was wondering, what is that itch? My eyebrow's growing down into my eye. It looks like Robin Williams' knuckles on my face. Like, this is terrible. Sorry, totally off topic. Todd's about to say, don't we have questions on this week's show?
Do we have any questions
today? Shut up. You will also notice, because of feedback, one episode I read the summary of the show beforehand and then go into the show, and I was like, oh, that's something new we're going to do every week. And that was the only episode I did it on. And someone was like, I liked it, that one episode you did it on. Should y'all do that again? I was like, oh, yeah, I say I'm going to do that every week. And then I didn't. Todd will tell you.
You know, you say you're going to do a lot of things that you don't do.
If people are only audio listening, that was actually Todd talking, not my impression of what he would say. But really close. You say you're going to do a lot of things you're going to do. Anyway, I thought you were flipping me off. You were actually scratching your head. This is the Homebrew Happy Hour, the show where we do supply all the answers to your questions, or we try to, or we Google them real quick. We have a great show lined up for you. We've got 4 questions. That is one thing I have stuck to. We've been providing 4 questions every week, and we're also cutting back on the small talk, so I'll try to make this brief. Starting at the top, our October...
Whoa, wait a minute. What? I just looked at the small talk stuff. Are we not going to talk about me harvesting tuna fruit from the cactus and peeling it and working on it for like 12 hours last weekend?
Let's start with that. Todd, first off, tell people, because when they hear tuna, they think you're harpooning in the bay. What did you do?
So James, somebody showed me how to put my do not disturb off my phone, and now it's
2 weeks in a row where our phones
I kept trying to call him on this office phone. It kept going to message every single time.
There we go. Okay, I'm putting it back on there, James. Next week, you're going to have to tell me how to take it back off, okay?
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. So the in Mexico and Texas, they call the fruit on a prickly pear cactus tuna. That's the Spanish word for it, is tuna. So I don't know. I've just heard that. When you go to San Antonio, you order a tuna margarita and stuff like that. So I've just heard it my whole life. So anyway, I picked a bunch of those fruits, way more than I could possibly use, an entire 5-gallon bucket of them. and my back gave out after peeling them and juicing them for about 2 hours, and I got about a quart, a fourth of a gallon. And from what I've read, that should be about the right amount of juice, because most people are throwing the whole fruit in there. So this is pure juice, and I'm going to make the mead I've been talking about for 20 years. I've been talking about making this Charlie Papazian mead that he goes on and on about in his Joy of Homebrewing book. And I'm really excited about making it finally, because I'm sure y'all are all tired of me talking about it, and I'm going to do it.
No, that's interesting.
It is interesting. It's way more interesting than the Cole shtick I have going on for me. It is, it's funny. How long his recipe calls for, like, it to sit for 3 years, right? Or what is the time?
Something like that. Yeah, but we talked to some people that do mead a lot at HomebrewCon, and they were like, "Yeah, Charlie's methods are dated when you're doing mead, and it's a lot faster now if you use some different things." So I got to do a little research before I complete the recipe. But mead doesn't look. I've never made mead, and maybe some of our listeners could give me some advice. I would love for you to reach out to me on that. But I need a good basic recipe. I kind of like a dry mead. I mean, not super dry, but a drier mead, and I want to put this cactus fruit in there, juice in there. So anyway. Any help would be appreciated.
That's what surprised me the most about your, I wouldn't call it obsession. You've just been, as long as I've known you, talking about brewing a mead, and you're not a sweet beverage kind of person. I've never known you to be a sweet beverage kind of person. I think that's what took you so long to finally get the ball rolling, because it's going to come out sweet. You say dry. How dry can a mead really be?
I've had a lot of meads that are dry that I really liked.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At HomebrewCon, I always try the meads, and there's always several that I go, wow, that's really good. Because the one they gave us as a sample is pretty sweet. I don't know I think that was 2 or 3 HomebrewCons ago. And I've still got a bottle of it in here, but it's pretty sweet.
Well, and I don't know if you looked, I brought a couple bottles for you when I found them in the back of my fridge.
Those are the same ones. That's where those came from. I was like, I swear I drank these already. And they just keep reappearing in my fridge.
That's why you think you have a drinking problem, because I'm sneaking in booze that you're like, I just drank that. I know I did.
That's hilarious. I had no idea. I was like, wow, I still got one of these.
I know. I brought 2 bottles. Yeah, I brought. And speaking of booze, I'm doing not dry October, sober October. It has to rhyme or have some kind of assimilation or whatever, but not assimilation. What's the anyway? I'm doing sober October, or sober rest of October, and I'm coming up this week, and I know you're going to be just insufferable to be around. I'm thinking of going to bed at 7 p.m. Just going in the room, turning off the lights, locking the door so you can't bother me, blowing cigar smoke under the door and rattling the door with like a beer glass or something. But because you are not participating in Sober October, am I correct?
I'm not, no.
And James isn't either. James,
no.
I've never even heard of Sober October. I thought you were supposed to do that in January.
Sober October, I think Joe Rogan and his crew kind of made it more mainstream. And I say that someone's going to write to me like, actually, Sober October was established. But I'm in the podcast realm and new media realm. Him and his buddies have always traditionally done a contest in October. All of them are sober, and it's basically like a weight loss competition, but they have a lot more sophisticated stat tracking than you and I did of just honor system. Like they have actual wearables, and they do the body fat test, and it's this whole analysis thing. And I'm not going that far. I'm abstaining from booze and cigars, which it worked out, because if last week I think we kind of touched on, it turns out my body could use the break. I could help out my blood pressure levels a little bit if I just took a little break. Todd's advice, though, was to get a new doctor when I told him about my visit last week.
Yeah, your doctor's a quack, dude. You need a new doctor.
That is what you told me.
You never ever want a doctor that has a lower fat to what is it called? Fat
body mass
index.
Yeah, BMI.
You do. Yeah, BMI. That's it. BMI.
See,
you don't want a doctor with a lower BMI than you.
My doc is pushing. He's probably 65, but he looks like he's 45. The reason I like him so much is because he practices what he preaches. And so you got to respect the guy that does that. He's in phenomenal shape, and He's crazy. I will go in there for the headache or a cold, a head cold, and we're talking about my health issues. And 10 minutes into it, we're talking conspiracy theories. He's like, "Hey, did you read this thing about this?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, let's go down this path. Like, this is the best." If it wasn't, I mean, he's pretty cheap, but if it wasn't costly, I would just go to him every week just for the conversation. Maybe I'll start a podcast with the guy. That would be good, because I don't even believe like 3/4 of the things we talk about. It's just fun to hear the conspiracies. But anyway, I got way off topic. Back to this show. Small talk for sure. Yes, Todd harvesting tuna, cactus plant, not dolphin look-alike. We are also the October. It is October. Recipe kits for our Patreon members is the Dusseldorf Alt beer. It's the revised Dusseldorf Alt beer that is up on the site now. The instruction sheets are going to be up on the site by the time you're listening to this. The whole recipe has been updated. James Carlson took diligent notes from our friend Horst Dornbush. And Todd, you had recommended that we make some kind of tribute or note of that in the product description, that the man the man behind the alt beer, but this is his recipe. Like this is why you should be brewing it. I'm excited for how ours is going to turn out, which leads me to asking you, Todd, how is it looking right now? Have you done numbers recently?
It's good. Yeah. It's I mean, everything's worked out well. It's actually it's cold crash now. It's, we're just waiting for it to clarify. So I've tasted it. James, you tasted it, smelled it the other day. Took a little taste. I think it was about 8:00 in the morning. So he didn't drink a lot, but he had a sip of it. And, I think it's going to really turn out well. I will say though, that I'm anxious to try it again with the new grain. So I may get Joe to order some more of that grain, because I didn't want to take that much of it when I brewed last time. I brewed a Kolsch actually, but we were like, maybe we should try it with a Kolsch. But I was like, yeah, probably shouldn't take 30 pounds of it. So I would like to brew it again with the new grain and have both of them and see if we can tell the difference.
And so for clarification, just so I'm on the same page as you, the new grain you're talking about is what's going to ship out with the recipe kit?
We ordered it to ship out with a recipe kit.
Perfect.
Now,
Okay.
I don't know if that was what was in the in directions that you worked on today, James.
I've got, Joe knows to put that in there. I didn't. I just used generic grain bill for the recipe.
Let's add that. I didn't even think about it until right now. Let's add that to the recipe, because I think going forward, that's what we're going to try to carry for it.
Okay. Perfect. And I know Joe had said it is a little bit pricier of a grain, but he also
less efficient too.
Yeah, but he did say it was worth it, especially since I guess I was what Horse is recommending.
Yeah.
So
that's the other thing. If it's less efficient, I wonder if we need more. I don't know if we need to look at that, because I don't know.
I've got the efficiency set real low on the recipe kit.
Okay.
Yes,
I guess if we put that one in, it should tell us though, right? Because we have the brand and everything, so we could try that.
That is why 2020 and the modern era is the best time for homebrewers ever, because we just pull up our brewing calculators and we just input the data, and the numbers don't look right. You manipulate the data until the numbers look right. Like, can you imagine those nerds 40 years ago with their pencils and their paper? Dorks.
I think we should. I think we should make that the grain for this recipe permanently.
Okay,
I'll talk to Joe and see if he can get it, and then
that would be awesome. So we'll
plug that in,
because we knew we are for sure sending it out for Patreon members. We knew that for sure, and that was like kind of the special. Like, hey, you join the Patreon, you're going to get Horse recipe to a T, even with this pricier grain. But that just so that we can say we're doing Horse's recipe kit for sure. And then,
and I don't know how much more it is. It's pricier, and you need more of it. So we'll have to see.
Maybe that's what Joe meant when he said pricier, just like, it requires more. But either way, for October patrons and also is for every $50 member you get it, but also $35 members I've offered them the ability to switch a month for this kit if they want to get it, if they want to get in on it right now. So we've actually, of all the ones that have replied in the $35 tier, Every single one but one of them has said, yes, I want the alt beer kit. And then people who are already getting it in the 35, I'm going to let y'all have the option of choosing November or December. We're going to make it up to you. We do what we can to accommodate our Patreon members. We appreciate everything y'all do. You can learn more at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Get all the details there. Also, what else do I have in the small talk? Oh, last week I was like, hey, my dad and I are brewing the breakfast stout on the Spite Solo. It's going to be great. We're going to probably do a live brew day. My dad, we did that on Friday, and he calls me or texts me that evening. He goes, the element you bought is the wrong size. James sent me the link, and I didn't even think to ask you, James, do I need the 1.5 or 2? And it had a drop down, and the default was a 2. And
you're too big.
Exactly. Yeah. If I would have just asked,
I've got one here.
We have one now. It was next day. It just came. It came Sunday, and it came late in the day, so we couldn't brew. So we're brewing this Saturday, and we are going to live brew day it to our Facebook group. If you're a Patreon member of our private Facebook group, you get to watch it. And if you're a Patreon member and you don't do Facebook, message me, please, if you want to watch the live brew day, so I can give you a stream link for the private YouTube link. It's not going to be on our public YouTube. It'll be a private event. But we have, believe it or not, James, you're a trendsetter. We've got like 10 Patreon members who are like, I don't do Facebook. It's the devil. My blood pressure is high, something, blah, blah, blah. So we have people who are also like you. You're a trendsetter, man. And so yes, the breakfast stout, we are going to be brewing it on the Spite Solo, 10 gallons, 5 of it coming to you, Todd. And that it worked out good because you told me you're going to send me home with the coffee to use. So that works out great by delaying it. I mean, even though the coffee doesn't go in until later, it still works out. I'll have the coffee you want for your batch. And then my dad and I are going to use premium Folgers red can, the one that you can get at HEB. I think it's like $4.
We have questions.
Yeah, we do. So yes, that is all the small talk I have for this week. Let's transition. We've got 4 questions for y'all. The first one coming from our friend Warren, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Warren wrote, I am a complete newbie to brewing, but I got bit by the bug and I can't get enough of it. In fact, I am wanting to grow my own hops next year, and I have a couple of questions. First, when is the best time to plant hops? Is there a traditional season for hops, or can I dig in whenever? Second, what hop would you recommend I plant? Would you stick to growing one certain type, or would it be okay to plant a variety of hops at the same time? I live in Arizona, if that helps you. Thanks, Warren. Todd, you've lived in Arizona. It seems dry as can be. Is that good?
I think it's really going to depend on where he lives in Arizona. I mean, if he lives in Sedona or if he lives in Phoenix, I mean, I don't, if he lives up higher where it's cooler, it might. I mean, I have my attempts at growing hops. I haven't done it much. I've just kind of put a hop plant in the ground one time and it died right away. So I'm the wrong person to ask.
James, I know you have tried it before in the past. How did hop growing go for you?
Well, it went real good. Typically, you want to do just like anything else right after the last frost as the soil starts to warm up. I put them in 5-gallon buckets so I could move them around if I needed to until they got established. And I think really in West Central Texas, the last frost is a relative term. So I put them in brew clean buckets with some rocks in the bottom. So if I thought there might be a frost coming, I could move them inside and then move them back out. And what I did is I got different varieties from online retailers. And then actually one year, Tractor Supply had hop rhizomes for sale. So I bought every kind of different one. I think I had like 10 different varieties. And I had an old clothesline that I thought, well, I'll just run them along that. And then if they get really established, I can have them go up the side of the house. Man, they grow really fast. I was shocked at how quick, once the roots get established and they start shooting up, they'll climb like crazy. What I ran into was when the Texas heat set in, because you need 6 to 8 hours of sun for hops to go to town. But I don't think mine weren't quite heat tolerant. And I got Cascade. I did some noble hops like Saws and Spalter and I think a couple of citrus hops too. and they were going to town. And as soon as we had a 90-degree day, in the high 90s, low 100s, they quit growing. You could quit see them move, because I'd mark the twine with a black magic marker just to see how far they would move. And they would move about an inch a day until the heat set in. Then it was a half an inch. Then it was a quarter of an inch. And then it was completely stopped. And then about a couple of weeks after that, they died. So I did that, tried that a couple of years, and without any luck. I think in our area, it's just too darn hot in the summer.
So you started that out by saying it went really good.
It did. It did good until the heat hit. And then
Well, you didn't.
that's what I meant. When we had nice, mild weather, and we had our last frost, they went to town. With the mild weather and the longer days, they established roots. Right. And they started growing like crazy. But as soon as we had the Texas heat set in and it got really, really hot, it burned them up.
Yeah, I was afraid that's going to happen in Arizona too. Depending on where you live there, it's going to be tough. I've had, the chef Todd at the Harvest in Comanche has grown hops, and he got some actual hops on him before, but I don't know if he got enough to brew with. I was very discouraged. I'm going to try it again sometime though.
Well,
yeah, you've got a good area for that too.
You do. And I'm wondering, I'm getting into aquaponics. I wonder if that would be, that might be a waste of the bed, and also the nature of how they grow. I don't think my little grow bed, I'd have to build up and over, right, to create to let them grow up on and over. But
you can train them. You can just, if you wanted to do zigzags, you can just train them, and they'll follow the line.
Okay. You've met my kids. I'm not good at training anything, man. I could try that. I had to laugh real quick, because when James did say it went well and said that they grow quick, Todd's look of disappointment, because he had just said, I planted them and then they died. I love the perspective of it. I would say
no. The reason I was laughing, because we talked about it a little bit before the show, and he said they all died. So when he said it went good, I was
context.
No,
context.
Where is this going?
When it was good, it was good. But you can't control Texas heat. Like if it had been a temperature controlled area.
I think it would have been no problem.
I think we should reach out again to listeners. Does anybody in Texas been successful growing hops? Because we sell a ton there's a ton of rhizomes that are sold in Texas. Somebody must be growing hops out there.
The rhizome sales go well.
What am I doing wrong?
And answering, I assume, which I know, Todd, you love when I make assumptions. You love when I'm honest with you, and you love when I make assumptions. We sell the rhizomes. We pre-order them to people, I think, in February, and they go out sometime early March. So I was going to tell Warren that, and James, you answered it, like you said, with most things, right after the frost, which is relative depending on where you're at in the country. Because I think it's 95 degrees here on October, whatever it is today in Austin, Texas. So
it was 98 Sunday. It's going to be 91 or 92 tomorrow.
Yeah. So temperature fluctuation in Texas is no joke, and we're no strangers to it. So I would say growing your own hops is a super niche of an already super niche hobby, which is brewing your own beer. The reason I don't grow my own hops is space. Y'all have been to my house. I live on 1/10 of an acre. I don't have the space. My parents, we could grow it there, I guess, but I don't know if the yield for me, it might be anticlimactic. It might be more romanticizing the process of I picked the hops for this myself. Nobody drinking my beer, especially, can you imagine my beer, like that Kolschweizen? It turns out crap. And then the only redeeming quality I could tell people is well, at least I used their own hops for my backyard. They're not going to care. They're going to pour out the Kolschweizen and go, this is garbage. Maybe you should buy some hops next time, because they're not going to know context of why the beer was garbage. But if I get into a second part of it, or what hop would you recommend I plant? James, what are some staples that are going to be used in a plethora of recipes that is a safe bet, as opposed to if you grew Mosaic, it might not be as versatile as if you grew.
I would say the most versatile hop would be the noble hops, but here, as far as a North American hop, would definitely be Cascade. If you wanted to do, that's a pretty versatile hop, Cascade, or some of the noble hops like Saaz or Tanager or Spalter. Northern Brewer is a good one too.
Northern Brewer is a good hop, and I hear that it does grow. Like a lot of people, when I see people on my Instagram talking about growing hops, a lot of it is Cascade. Centennial, sometimes I see Citra is pretty common. And I'm assuming that these people, like for the Citra ones, they're probably IPA brewers, but I don't see a whole lot of noble hops and or at least people tagging them. Do you think it's because they're not brewing traditional German beers, or do you think it's, are they harder to grow here in North America?
I really don't know. I think that they're probably, even if you took some, hop rhizomes from Europe and brought them over here and grew them in our region, the soil and everything going on, they wouldn't produce the kind of flavors you could get where they're grown over there. That's my opinion. I could be wrong,
Right.
but
So, Josh, you mentioned hydroponic. Isn't there a
Aquaponic.
cousin? Huh?
Aquaponic, not hydroponic, but aquaponic. That's with the fishies putting up the ammonia and the nitrates and then the little clay balls, making it into food plant. And it's a cycle, not weed growing hydroponics. I know where you're going with this, Mr.
I know, but it's a
It's a cousin of
isn't it
cannabis.
the same? It's not the same thing.
I do believe that hops are a cousin of cannabis.
No, they are. But I mean, why?
Oh.
So, are you saying hydroponic and
No, well, hydroponic hydroponic is different than aquaponic. It doesn't have the fish. It's everything else but the fish tank. Like,
then why would the fish matter as far as
because
what
they're
you grow in
providing
it?
they're providing, because the vessel that I have is of a different size where it would, like, it's not if I were
So
like,
yours wouldn't grow marijuana.
oh, I could totally probably grow marijuana, but you would,
Okay, so that's where I'm going with this.
I could
If you could
probably-
grow marijuana. You could almost certainly grow hops.
right, but
then.
I thought hops are vining, right? Like they need.
yeah, you'd have to have a way for them to climb.
That's what I'm saying. Marijuana, I'm assuming, I have no experience with the plant, Mom. Doesn't it grow on its own straight up and not need to be trained? And it's not a vine. It's
no,
It's not a vine.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You'd have to train it. Yeah, but
Marijuana-
I'm saying it. I bet it would
cannabis.
grow.
You have to train cannabis, or are you talking about
No,
hops?
hops.
Okay.
Yeah, you would have to have something for it to grow on, but where it's growing from, where the base is, where it's in the water or dirt
Gotcha.
or whatever growing media is, would be the same. So it seems like you could grow it. You should try a plant in there.
Okay, yeah, and well, James actually he answered my question, because I was concerned I'd have to have more space, but he's saying I can train it to zigzag, and so
yeah, the vine itself produces little offshoots that are kind of tacky, and they're curled like a pig's tail. And what I would do is I'd just wrap them around the twine every evening when I'd water them, and then they would attach. And most of the time I didn't have to do it; it would do it already. But you can teach them to climb a twine. I use just rope,
Right.
rope at the hardware store.
And I think some of our Patreon members also are growing their own, or have been. So if you're in our Patreon and you're listening to this, please message me in the group before you blast us publicly, and just give me a heads up, because they're going to be like, well, first off, you absolutely
No. Blast us publicly. I like that better.
Oh yeah, dude, you don't see it. Yeah. So let me. The only other thing I was going to say to Warren, and I'm only half joking, I think the reason why a good chunk of our hops we harvest from the Pacific Northwest is because that's the ideal location for an abundance of growing an abundance of hops. So if you're having a real bad problem growing your own hops, move. Just pack up, get out of Arizona's not that great, right, Todd? Now we just lost a bunch of listeners. I'm kidding. I love Arizona. Tempe's great. Been to Tempe before, and
and there's lots of resources online if you're interested in running in trying to grow hops that will help you out. That's what I did, and that's when I found out that our region is not it's not terribly perfect for growing hops.
Right. And again, trial and error, man. If you can have as much control over the growing, you're going to get better results. I think that goes with anything we talk about on this show. The more control you have over the environment of whatever it is that you're nurturing, the better results you're going to have. If we just let our beer during fermentation have an open lid and set it outside, the results are not going to be that great. That's why we control as many factors as we can. So I would say, as much as you can control it. And I like your idea, James, of putting them in buckets, because especially in Texas, you're going to have to move it around. Having it in the ground, very few people, maybe Todd Burns is the only exclusion in this group specifically that has the space to be able to plan out the perfect spot. Like, and
he's got an awesome garden.
Absolutely.
Always does. It's beautiful.
So maybe we'll try the aquaponics and you putting them in the ground, Todd, and we can do a comparison and see that when rhizomes come back around in February.
Can we do a bet?
Oh, well, what's the bet? That I can't, that I have a black thumb? I can't grow stuff? That's why I'm getting into aquaponics. But you're right. Yeah, maybe we will, because that will be the ultimate proof. If I can grow a successful hop, I could grow anything in Texas. So yes, Warren, thank you so much for submitting your question. This is a great time to remind you all, when we take your question on a future episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour, we give you a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com, courtesy of Mr. Burns. Thank you, sir, for your generosity and support of the show. Moving on to question number 2, comes from our buddy Bradley T, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Bradley wrote, "Hey, Josh and crew. I am a longtime fan of your podcast and watch you fellas every week on YouTube. Keep up the great work. My local gas supply shop shut down, I think due to COVID, and the only shop even kind of near me has just told me that they don't have food grade or beer grade gas. I'm now having to drive to the next town over to get my tank filled, but it led me to this question. What the heck is food grade gas? I never asked my old shop if their gas was food grade. They just filled my tanks. Is it likely that I haven't been getting food grade gas this whole time? Do other homebrewers ask for food grade gas, or is food grade gas fairly common at supply shops?" Bradley, that is a wonderful question. So much so, when Todd was reading it 5 seconds before we went on air, I'd asked him, because I get my gas. Well, now I get it from Todd, but I was getting it for the longest time from a welding shop. Todd, I've never once said, "This is for beer. Can you please fill this for beer? Do you have beer gas?" They just fill it and give it back. Have I been poisoning myself?
Yeah, I mean, ours isn't food grade. I don't know why you're filling it with us.
Okay. Wonderful.
I'm kidding. So the vast majority of places that fill CO2 supply people with gas for beer, like restaurants, bars, places like that, and they're going to have food grade CO2. But I'm sure you would run into some welding shops that are just industrial that wouldn't have food grade still at this point, I believe. I mean, if you were to go to, some industrial area of Houston and get CO2, maybe it wouldn't be food grade. I would just, I know the ones in San Marcos that I used to go to was food grade, because they supplied restaurants and bars and places like that. And I also asked them, but as far as, I think that's the best bet, is to ask, just say, I'm using this for beer. Is this food grade? And I can almost assure you're going to get answers from yes, no, to a really strange look and what the hell are you talking about? So,
well, I think kudos to that shop for, I'm assuming the conversation went Bradley calling them and they saying, well, we swap or we fill, and him going, okay, how much is it? And they saying, and they're going, well, what are you using it for? Because that probably is I just can't imagine. And I always hold everyone to the standard by which I judge myself. So it's a very low bar. I just don't know who these people are that go out of their way to say, is this food grade gas, if they didn't know any better. And I've been in this for a long time, dude, 13 years, and I never knew any better. James, did you know to ask for food grade gas when you went to get your stuff? Right?
No, and I used to run restaurants years back, and we had a welding gas supply company that would service and swap out our 100-pound cylinders, and never come up. It was never in the operations guide. Never came up.
I wonder if food grade is just jargon, like organic. And I'm not saying organic's jargon. I just mean like how easy it is to just put the organic sticker on stuff. I wonder if food grade.
Yeah, it probably has something to do with the cylinder itself.
It probably does. You're right. Yeah. And the way it's generated, maybe. I do know, off the top of my head, I should have done homework, but I didn't because I'm lazy. Benzene is the thing I think that you're trying to avoid, the difference between food grade gas or benzene. It starts with a B. And because I do remember Todd talking about this back when we were in San Marcos, you used to fill CO2 cylinders for homebrewers and in the San Marcos area. And y'all still do. It's just nobody lives out there in Comanche. Y'all don't really fill them that often for customers.
You'd be amazed.
Oh, really? Y'all really get
quite a few.
All
no
the
way.
time, yeah.
Where are they coming from?
Well, there's people that live in this area.
Oh, do not make me feel. Oh, Josh, they're just a bunch of pumpkins. Don't know what to do. No, I see your face. Stop that judging me. In San Marcos, we had them almost every day, where people would come with their 20 ounce or their 5 pound. And I do remember a guy asking you back then if it was food grade. And I remember the only thing I do remember is it coming up about. Do you remember the chemical, Todd? Like the guy. I want to say it was that homebrewer who would always come around asking for free stuff. You know who I'm talking about. I won't name names, but it was some gas where he was like, oh, it can give you headaches. Like it gives
benzene,
benzene, right? Isn't that how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would assume if you're getting bad headaches from your homebrew, maybe it is that you're not using beer grade gas. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yeah, industrial gas. It's probably made in the same place, but they just have it's just a higher. I think so. It's like 99.9% versus 90. It's almost there's very little difference. It's like less than 1% difference of impurities. But if that 1% is benzene, then you're going to have a headache.
Right. So it's not that my batch is bad. It could be the gas.
You may have bad gas.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah, story of my life. So yeah, that is a bummer, Bradley, that you are having to drive over another town. But again, I can't say kudos enough to that shop for at least notifying you, asking you, I'm assuming they asked you what you're using it for, and then telling you don't want our gas, because I wouldn't turn away business. It would be hard to, unless there is some kind of liability of like, oh, you don't want to use our gas because you're going to get sick. But from my memory, I think it's just a headache that you might experience from the benzene if it's too much in there. But yeah, I will now going forward encourage people and do it myself. Ask, is this food grade gas? That's going to be a habit. What are the Todd Byrne habits? Clean your lines every 2 weeks. I'm not there yet. Make sure it's beer grade gas. Wash your ears. Do your homework. I forget. Eat your vitamins. Say your prayers.
Reply to emails.
Oh God. Oh hey, we got another question. Moving on to question number 3 comes from our friend Nathan, who also used a submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Nathan wrote, "Hey Josh, you folks have a great podcast, and I'm happy to be a part of your audience and now your Patreon. I have a question about fermentation. Is there such a thing as fermentation happening too fast? I pitched a pack of Imperial flagship into my wort, and I swear it wasn't even 2 hours before I saw activity. It's a pretty simple pale ale recipe, but my first time using Imperial, and I am not used to activity happening so fast. Will this add anything to my beer that I can expect, or does this just mean that I can enjoy my batch sooner? I didn't make a starter, just 1 pouch of Imperial flagship. Nathan, before we answer this, say that 10 times fast. I pitched a pack of Imperial flagship. That is a lot of peas, my Lord. I love Imperial because I love seeing activity within I think the quickest my dad and I have seen it was the Hefeweizen. And it was maybe 3.5 hours or 4 before activity started. And he did the blow off because it was getting real vigorous the next day. Is there a problem, Mr. Carlson, with activity happening too fast?
Oh, it can be a problem. If you pitch it with too warm a wort, then you really get that yeast activated and they can produce some pretty nasty stuff. That's why it's real important to have the wort chill down to, I like to be below 70 degrees. With the chiller, the conicals that we use, we have a chiller. We can get by with a little warmer than that. We just turn the chiller on when we're moving the wort into the conical. But I've had, if you're doing, we were talking about this earlier, if you have a 5-gallon batch and you've got a really fresh bag of Imperial yeast, that's 200 billion cells, and you've got everything right. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't start that quick. It'll finish real fast too.
Todd, I know you have input because before you swear that Casey Hellwig with Imperial, we did a live Q&A for our Patreon members. You swear we took this question. I don't remember. And
yeah, she answered it, but neither one of us can remember what she told us.
that's the story of my life.
Maybe we should listen when we're doing a question and answer
Maybe I
session.
should pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, we could have. I mean, I guess we could go back and listen to it. Can people access that now? Even
Yes.
do they have to be Patreon members? Or
As
how
of
does that
right
work?
now, yeah, we're going in our backlog and publishing that on our YouTube. I have not published hers yet.
So is it on the? We haven't yet.
No,
Okay.
it's published to our Patreon Facebook group. It's called Homebrew Happy Hour Super Duper Secret Club. I cross-referenced you just to make sure that you're but all Patreon members, $1 up to the $50 tier, everyone gets access to it.
So can we put it on the Homebrew Happy Hour site?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want,
Let's add it on after the podcast. Make a link to it, and then people can go listen to it because she did answer that, and I kind of remember what she said. But if I tell you what I think I remember, it's kind of like why they say you should always have a lawyer present when you're answering questions to the police because what you think you hear a month or 2 months later is different, right?
You plead the fifth
yeah.
because you don't want to incriminate yourself as an idiot. Is that what we're saying?
Well, I'm pleading the fifth right now.
I have to as well. And that's why I was asking James, because James, to me, you have a lot of experience with like delayed activity and what to do.
Yeah.
And
we've talked about lag time before. That can create some off flavors as well.
Exactly. So
and it can be beneficial for certain styles of beers that you're trying to go for. You want that, and you want to underpitch yeast to create those off flavors for that style. But if you're doing just a regular basic ale or lager, you want it as clean as possible. I would think so.
Right.
And that means good numbers.
Right.
He didn't actually say what temperature he was fermenting, so because that could have a huge difference. I've noticed when I'm pitching imperial yeast, I've done it a lot lately. And let's see, when I did the Kolsch this weekend, I pitched it pretty cold. I pitched it at about 69 degrees, and it did not start fermenting till the next day, but it fermented really well for about 3 days, and then it's still bubbling slightly now. Very not very often at all, but every minute or so I'll get a bubble, and I'm probably gonna. I think it's probably done. I'm going to take a reading on it later today, and maybe tomorrow switch it over. But I've had it start. But y'all mentioned before, I did a episode one. I did 2 batches in one day one time, and the first one was bubbling when I started the second one, I believe, or no, I'm sorry, when I finished the second one, right? I said that wrong. Yeah, it was. So
what was that time?
bubbling.
5 hours, give or take, or what was it between you pitching and you noticing activity?
It was about 6 or 7 hours.
Okay, man, that's
Probably
long.
7
That's
hours.
a long.
That's a
your
long
brew days
brew
aren't
day.
7 hours.
Yeah, usually I start at they're by the time I finish cleaning and everything, it's usually 6 to 7 hours.
So then that was a 14-hour brew day you did.
It was
Wow.
I haven't done one since.
And that was recently, wasn't it? Or am I mistaken? Is that
It wasn't really 14 hours because I was able to start some stuff. Like I was able to start the second batch before I cleaned up. I had the cleanup wasn't in there, but if I'm brewing and cleaning up and everything else, let's see. The one of the fastest days I can possibly remember was the one I did on this what was it, Friday when
the Kolsch? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I started at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was done in a little over. I was done brewing in 5 hours, and by the time I finished cleaning up, it was about 6 hours.
Context though, you collect water ahead of time and you you preheat the water.
Yeah, and I preheat the water some. Yeah,
because I lost a $5 bet on preheating that we didn't talk about on last week's show. And
Yeah, that was still amazing. I still can't believe that. That's
this
crazy.
jerk, he is the king of manipulation. Look, I talk
What are
like
you
this
talking
for him,
about?
and I give him this Neanderthal voice, but he is a conniving scallywag. You are, don't do that.
Todd,
first.
tell them what we're talking about, what you did.
Oh, so what I do now is I always fire up. It's electric, so I probably shouldn't say fire up, but I heat up my water and I circulate it. So I'm using the HLT and the mash tun, and I circulate. So between the two, I've got maybe 30 gallons of water in there, right? That's an exaggeration. It's not 30 gallons of water, but you know what I mean? 12 gallons, 13 gallons, depends on what kind of beer I'm brewing. And I circulate that around and get it to maybe 180, 190 degrees. And then when I go to bed, I turn it off. And the next morning when I get ready to brew, it's still pretty damn warm. It was 135 or 140, wasn't it, Josh?
It was 138.
138.
I remember.
What was the bet again?
Okay, no, shut up. Okay, here's the bet. He comes out there and he starts heating it, and I was like, "Is that going to hold temperature?" He goes, I predict it'll probably be maybe like 110."
No, I said 120.
Oh, 120. But you were so like, I might be. And I was like, 120. Whoa, I'll take the under on that. And you're like, oh, no, hold on. Maybe 110. And I was like, I'll take 110 and under. And you were like, no, well, hold on. 105. Like, if it's anything 105 or up, I win, and below. But I mean, just because it could. But he was so convincing, James. He was so convincing that he had no faith in it that I just stuck my hand out like the idiot I am and
but I've
shook
done
it.
it like 10 times before that. Why would you?
You've done it 1,000 times before. Oh, you're talking about the actual heating. I thought you were talking about tricking me.
The heating the water. I do it every time I brew. Why would you think it was going to be drastically different when we bet on it?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, what's going to be even better is when I insulate the HLT pod.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour and join our community. Thank you.
Yeah, we were ready almost instantly, right, James?
Yeah, that brew day was smooth, man.
That was a good brew day, other than boil over. But that was the only issue we had.
And boil over was not bad.
Listen, when I brewed the Kolsch on Friday, it is the first time in my life I have ever brewed a batch of beer when nothing went wrong. Not a single solitary little thing went wrong. So that beer's definitely got some kind of bad bug in it. It's going to go bad.
I was going to say, there's
no hope for that beer.
You just jinxed it, you dummy. You never say that.
No. I jinxed it when nothing went wrong.
I want a good, the dream.
No, it'll be fine.
The dream is coming up. November trips up there. I'm going to have Kolsch and Alt on tap at the Burns Barn. That's the dream. If either one of those is less than stellar, I'm either going to lie to myself and just drink it with my nose pinched like this, or we're going to cry on live internet live stream as we dump a keg. Like, I should have live streamed me dumping that Kolschweizen. I had a tear in my eye. It was depressing. And we kept it on for a good month because I was like, it'll mellow. And it never did.
You and I dumped a beer when you were here last time because we both tried it and we were like, yeah, it's definitely gone bad.
It was my first pale ale recipe kit.
It was old.
It went bad. And it happens, right? Things can turn. Things can get introduced.
I think it had been in there for 4 months.
Going on. It was almost 4 months. Yeah. So
it was great for a while.
It was fantastic. But
it was really good.
Yeah. But
I had to dump out the Maybach I did a while back. Yeah. There was, it was same thing. Because that was right around when I did the Maybach. He did my first pale ale. And you can tell after a while they get kind of aged tasting. But there was probably not even a gallon left in it.
It happens, and it's the worst when it does happen. Maybach, it reminded me earlier. Todd, how did you pronounce rhizome? Rhizome? What did you say? I was just the way that we
rhizome.
Rhizome. Okay, I was making a mental note when you said it back then. Someone's going to write in and make fun of him, and I'm going to point it out next week.
Wait, why would they make fun of me for saying rhizome?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. It's the rhizome. So yes, Nathan. Let's wrap up his question because I digressed us too much. James,
I forgot what the question was.
Pitching a pack of imperial yeast, and he's saying about 2 hours before he saw activity. Is there a rule of thumb, Mr. Carlson, that you would say activity before this is bad, activity after is also bad? Is there a sweet spot?
Not really. Okay. I would just say that don't ever pitch yeast when your wort is too warm. But what I mean by too warm is like if it's 80 or more, a lot of people would say 75 degrees or more, and you're not going for a farmhouse style beer. Yeah, don't do that because it will start quick. Anybody that's made bread and started the yeast on the counter with 105 degree water knows what I'm talking about. It doesn't take very long for the yeast to multiply. And that would be the one thing that I would say is if it started too fast and you pitched that yeast in too warm a wort, then it's probably going to create some off flavors you won't like.
And he just submitted this question. So I will follow up with him, and hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get a reply from him about how it turned out, the results, like a progress report, like it turned out great. Thanks, Imperial. Or, oh man, you know what? Here's my temperature, and I did do it too. Some added information will help out a lot. And so this is one that I've marked. I've already replied to Nathan because he used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, which gives me their email. And I've asked him to keep us in the loop because things like these are good to come back around to because they can answer themselves, right? After time. I did see on our Instagram, people always ask questions on our Instagram, and I just tagged James. And you're like the last guy who wrote up, I forget the whole context of the question, but the answer was basically time. Oh, it was clearing out. Was it clearing out an alt beer? Is that what it was?
Yeah. He had an alt beer that he had 3 weeks, and he was still concerned because it was a little cloudy. And if you're going to do it that way, make sure it's cold and just let it set, and it'll eventually clear out. If you have patience. If you're like me, I just get a filter kit and filter it.
Time, though. If you have patience, time is your friend. So, okay. Thank you so much, Nathan, for submitting your question. Moving on to our fourth and final question comes from our buddy Josh W., who used the Facebook Messenger because when people join our Patreon, they usually friend me and then they just send me their questions all day, and it's great. Through Facebook, Josh wrote, quick question for you about kombucha that you don't necessarily need to put on the show. Congrats on episode 200, by the way. Started listening to it today, but then kids happened. Anywho, do you need to sanitize kombucha equipment, or is a good cleaning all you need? It seems that the little beasties that you don't want in beer are the same as you want in the booch. So what's the point? Todd, James, y'all don't have any experience with kombucha.
I
think that you need to take that question,
I'm the expert.
What is kombucha?
Kombucha is from the gods. It is, my wife thinks that I'm drinking alien intestine when she looks at the SCOBY. She cannot stand it. My kids cannot stand it. The taste is also acquired. I'm not going to sit here and lie and go crack open a kombucha and enjoy your first sip. You're not gonna. It's like
I will never forget when my daughter bought some several years ago. Victoria, she's a foodie, and she was so excited. She opened it up and took a big sip, and she just went, "Oh God!"
I think it went bad, Dad. No, that's how it tastes, honey.
Sour tea.
It is, and I like it, and my quack doctor loves it for the probiotic health effects on your gut. Gut health apparently is important for men our age, and by our age I mean mid-30s, not you old cats on the show. Not you, Todd.
Probiotics a myth.
Yeah, I know. So the probiotics and the internet are two myths that you're not buying into still. But it's a very quick and easy answer, Josh. I love kombucha because it is so easy to make. When you get a SCOBY, you brew sweet tea, you throw in the SCOBY, you control your temperature. And by control, I mean anywhere between 70 and 86 degrees, and it's going to go to town. You just let it sit in a corner, no direct sunlight, and it just ferments, and you watch it grow into this nice SCOBY. You don't have to sanitize anything. Now, I almost reached out to Lorena from Brewer's Friend because she's my go-to, and I can almost hear her telling me, "Don't tell him that, you idiot. Here's what you have to do." But hear me out before anyone yells at me and tells me I'm wrong. I know from research that the acidic, like the pH levels of kombucha, is not welcoming to the pathogens you're trying to avoid for like beer. Like what Josh kind of already answered his own question. If those were introduced, they're not even going to survive in there anyways. And the ones that do, you're not going to tell because of how it ends up tasting. Look, I dog on sour beer all the time, but call out my hypocrisy for drinking kombucha. It's not sour beer, but it's just as awful. Like it's not anymore, and it's almost as unenjoyable drinking it. And that's why you have to mess around with fruits and stuff. And even then, you don't drink kombucha to get drunk. I wouldn't drink a liter of kombucha in a night. I drink 8 ounces a day, and that's it. That's all I can handle. But You don't. A good rinsing is all you have to do. He was talking about a good cleaning. I would make sure you stay away from soaps, like antibacterial soaps, because there's a good chance you're not going to rinse all of that out, and you don't want that stuff hanging around and killing the bacteria that you want from your SCOBY. SCOBYs are sensitive, is the word I was looking for. They're like, you could kill it pretty easy, and you don't want to do that because nothing's worse than a dead SCOBY. And so, if you just rinse it well, your first, glass container or whatever, you don't have to even use soap. Again, I'm waiting for people to yell in my ear, like, don't tell people this. That's why your kombucha sucks, or that's why you don't like it. But my understanding is that the pH levels of it will keep you good. So that makes it even that much easier to brew. And if you end up liking the taste, it's going to become a beverage that you're always going to keep on, because by nature of it, it's like, what is that friendship bread? Is that a sourdough? Is friendship bread usually where you brew it and you have a starter and you pass it on to a friend?
Yeah,
and
sourdough.
And it keep the cycle going and whatnot. Kombucha ends up being that way, or you end up throwing away a bunch of SCOBYs because a healthy SCOBY hotel or a healthy batch produces a lot of SCOBY, and you don't need all of that SCOBY for the next batch, so you slice some off. Like I'm about to give Todd. Doesn't your cousin want to get into kombucha?
Yeah.
So I'm about to split off and share, and it'll be my first shared batch. Actually, will be with your cousin, so it'll be nice. You had no interest, it seemed like, Todd, in me bringing you a SCOBY to brew some.
The only good SCOBY is a dead SCOBY, my friend.
I didn't know we had such closed-minded people on this show. I'm sorry. I thought this was the land of the free, not the judgmental. Golly, buddy. No, but I like having the kombucha questions. Always ask them, and they may not always make it on the show, but we haven't talked about kombucha in a while, mainly because I can't lie, guys. It's not mainstream. People try to make it mainstream, and I'm in the Austin area. I am in King Hipsterville, and look at the way I sometimes dress myself. Todd would say I'm King Hipster, but like my pants, I'm wearing very tight pants right now, but that's because I gained some weight. But anyway, kombucha's huge here. The kombucha market's huge here, and I don't get it. When you carbonate it and you add enough fruit, you can kind of convince yourself it's soda. Kind of. But if it didn't have health benefits, I don't know if I'd make it.
That's the thing I question is the health benefits. I mean, it's super high in calorie, and I mean, it's just like drinking a soda, right? I mean, how is it different?
No, I don't know. I don't
playing devil's advocate.
No, I hear you. I don't know the caloric intake from it, and I also don't know the sugar. I assume the sugar content wouldn't be super high because of the process of the yeast eating the sugar, but I guess it would be still because it's still present. It's just kind of pooping it into really low ABV alcohol. Watch, we're gonna look it up. It's gonna be like kombucha. Why you shouldn't drink it? It's leading to diabetes and rotting teeth, and it's a placebo effect. Those SCOBYs are actually killing me. I don't know what you're implying, Mr. Burns. Are you Google searching it right now?
Calories of
It's with a K. I know you can't spell it.
Backspace.
Well, I'm reading that it's a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
Yes, that's what the SCOBY is. Yeah, if mine wasn't in my big, like, because I have another batch going. I do 3.5 gallon batches so I can put them in my 3 gallon keg. And then I use the rest of it, or it's actually 2.5 gallon keg. I use the rest of it, the gallon, give or take extra, to start a starter for the next batch.
Somehow I got on Google Scholar. So I'm getting like medical study stuff on calories of. That's not what I was looking for. Wow.
We are just killing time. We will talk about this. I will put it in the show notes. Like, here's what Todd ended up finding, because he's 92 years old and it takes him a month to research how much calorie. If I had easy access to a computer,
125 milliliters has 90 calories.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I drink 8 ounces a day, roughly. Or what is it? What is a Kolsch glass? That's what I drink. I have my Peter's.
You only
Kolsch.
drink 8 ounces? I didn't know that. Wow. That's all you drink of it. Huh?
I start my day off when I'm at home. Obviously, not when I'm like out or whatever. Because I have that handy dandy CM Becker event faucet, and I have the keg.
Hey.
It's beautiful for kombucha, by the way. And so I just open up the fridge door. I'm not drinking beer. Grab that, fill up my Peter's Kolsch glass, take my 8-ounce shot. And
It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's ranging from saying it's 30 calories to 150 calories. So I guess it varies a lot depending on how you make it.
right, and mine's raw. I do not add anything. I don't want to. I'm not going to like it anymore. Unless I add like a bunch of other stuff, like Michael Scott adding Splenda to his scotch, right? Like I'm not going to enjoy it unless I make it bad for me, or allegedly more bad for me, because Todd is now on a mission to prove that kombucha is not healthy. Todd I'm
just playing devil's advocate. I would drink it.
God.
If you brought some up, I'd drink it.
Okay, I'll bring some up this trip. Well,
I'd like to try it. And
Okay,
see.
Yeah.
I'll bring a growler full. And
They're saying here you can actually make your own SCOBY from scratch. It takes 2 to 4 weeks.
you can in commercial kombucha cannot filter it out enough to where you can get a thing of commercial kombucha and
That's what it says.
yeah, and make it from that. Yeah, I didn't, because I found a source for SCOBYs for like $11 or whatever, and that was with free shipping. So I'm
Is
more
that like Amazon or?
It was just Amazon. Yeah. I say source. You're right.
Wow.
That sounded so secretive. I have a source. Amazon, there was a SCOBY for like $10.99, and it wasn't a starter kit. It was just a SCOBY in a pouch, and they ship it to you, and it looks like a urinal cake, and arguably tastes like a urinal cake.
Does it develop layers?
It does.
That you can peel apart?
It does.
That's cool.
It is super cool. Yeah, I'll bring y'all some, and you'll see too. Sometimes when I put it in a serving vessel, it starts developing a SCOBY in that serving vessel. It's wildly active. But anyway, we've lost everybody. Nobody cares anymore. They've all tuned out. Thanks, Todd, for taking 10 hours to search for the caloric intake, which we didn't even find out the answer to anyway.
40 to 150 calories.
To wrap up, Josh,
12 ounces.
to wrap up your question, Josh, don't sanitize anything. If you want to, I don't care. Go for it. But you don't have to. It's beautiful. Kombucha is so easy to make. I wish it tasted better. So, with all that being said, guys.
There you go.
Yeah, some people say that about my beer. But I appreciate you guys so much for doing the show. We're actually recording this on a Tuesday. We're very efficient this week. We're getting it done and knocked out. Maybe I'll publish it Wednesday. We'll see. I almost considered sponsoring the show or running an ad for our Amazon affiliate account, because today's Prime Day, and so is tomorrow, Wednesday the 14th. Today's the 13th. Yeah, tomorrow the 14th. And I almost considered running this show today, just because a lot of our listeners don't know you can support our show for free. No extra charge to you when you go to homebrewhappyhour.com/support. We have an Amazon affiliate account that if you click on that, any purchase you make, we get like 6 or 7% from the sale. And I always joke, I don't think it shows me what you buy, so I can't judge you on the weird stuff you buy. Like if the people I support, which is Homebrew Happy Hour, if I could see that all I'm buying is squatty potty accessories and bidet accessories as well, some people might think that's weird, but I don't think it shows me that stuff. So you can shop in confidence, knowing we're not going to know what you're buying and still support the show. So anyway, I'm just selling us. Guys, thank you so much for doing the show with me. I'll see y'all later this week.
Thanks.
See ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, homebrewsupply.com, for supporting us and the homebrewing community. You can get 15% off homebrew kegerator kits plus a keg, ball lock, or pin lock for only $30 per keg when bought with a kit. It's a limited time offer available only at homebrewsupply.com. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. and join our community. Thank you.